We are now live in Boston and Woodstock. Tēnā koutou katoa ko tākaro ko waho ko puhara ki te nui o mātou awa, ko ihu tau te moana ko Waitai te hapori, ki ngā paenga o tātou e mahi nei, ko pomak mātuka ingoa, ko au te manakura o tēnā ko ari. Nō reira, tēnā koutou katoa. Welcome to the Waitai Community Board meeting for today, the date that I cannot remember off the top of my head, the 7th of July. Welcome to the 7th of July Waitai Board meeting. If you'd like to join us in our opening karakia. So I currently do not have any apologies. We do have Councillor Jan Johansson online. He's very much present with us. Do we have any other apologies? Members, it's a fairly light agenda today. Well, obviously, we want to make sure that we discuss everything fully, but it would be my preference if we could be out of here by before 6 o'clock, but without skimping on doing our duty. Thank you. So no apologies. Do we have any declarations of interest? No declarations of interest to make. So next we move to the confirmation of the minutes of the 9th of June. Would someone move by Greg, seconded by Kelly? Any discussion? No. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. So now we move on to public forum. So we have 3 public forum attendees. We have a Youth Development Report Fund back. We have the Green Lab, and we have the Rafferty Golf Club. So this is just 5 minutes. These for 5 minutes, including questions for any one member of the public to come and share something with us. It might be a report back. It might be to raise some things with us. And we can't make any decisions based on these, but we can note it and get some feedback later. All right, so the first public forum is Brooklyn Schreiner.
Who's not here yet.
Who's not here yet, so we'll move to Bridget Allen from the Green Lab. Yeah. Hello again.
Hello.
The floor is yours.
Hopefully, I'll just do a practice. I'm here from the Green Lab. I'm the director. My name is Bridget Allen. And just a refresher, we design, create and test meaningful green events, ideas and spaces which contribute to the social, cultural wellbeing and environmental ecosystems in Ōtautahi. So in 2024, I sat here and asked for some funding through the Better Off, and we received some to move our mobile workshop to the New Brighton Red Zone on New Brighton Road. We didn't follow up on this lease because it was brought up to our attention that that's going to be changing with road and the flooding, and the council and we were concerned that we might not reach the people we want to, and we might just get really bogged down. And it was at the same time when the Guardians of Rafferty had closed down. So we approached the community board and said, hey, why don't we do what we wanted to do with our Better Off funding, but within the domain. So we wanted to introduce and educate the community about ecology and biodiversity to the local environment, our impact and its importance on its future. So we reimagined ourselves within the domain and moving our mobile workshop into the domain. So this is a photo montage of it sitting tucked away by the substation. Just a reminder of what we wanted to do with and we have been doing this, our ecological residency is create an outdoor workshop space, accessible for all people to come and learn, landscape with the local community to increase local biodiversity, work in partnership with local organisation, provide educational workshops, research and development, signage regarding the surrounding environment and how can we make a beneficial impact. So we have been working, we've signed an agreement, a voluntary agreement looking after the swale and the boulder copper butterfly site. And what we're proposing now is we have put in a lease. And if you see number 2 up there is by the substation of moving the lab in there. And we're just in discussions with the council whether that should be a temporary 6-month lease or looking at a long-term lease within the domain. And also we wanted to activate the area around site 3 where the community planting is at the moment, and that was brought up with the septic reports. We want to work in with what was brought up and increasing surveillance, activating the site. We thought, and I've put in a proposal with the city placemaking to put in a platform within the site with using ground screw, so it wouldn't be concreted and it could be taken away. And a nice place for people to meet, and also bike stands, because currently I'm not sure if there's any bike stands within the domain. And it does work in with the septic report as well. And moving the lab by the substation, we're not blocking views. And just to recap on, with the funding, we haven't moved the lab, but we have been doing what we wanted to do. So we did a day actually with Robbie, the park ranger, discovering the cocaine reserve. And this was very popular. We want to run more of those. And we're now have got funding to do an ecological.
Sorry, did you just say cocaine reserve?
No.
Cocaine.
Cocaine.
It is cocaine.
Is it?
Yeah.
All right, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I just,
But there is no growing there.
yeah,
Yeah.
Very popular.
yeah. In my day job, I do work in, oh, don't worry, you won't lose time for this. I help to reduce harm for young people from alcohol and other drugs. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, when I hear drugs, I just,
Here you go.
yeah, sorry, that was very unhelpful of me.
That's right. So it's named after Leonard Cocaine, who was an early botanist.
Oh, cool.
Worked for the government in 1910.
Yeah. So hopefully with this booklet, we'll increase awareness of that area so people actually know who it's named after. So yeah, it's nice that Robbie's here to hear this. And we did community building within the gardens. So instead of having our workshop there, we've used the New Brighton Community Gardens to run this. And we're still building the track boxes for the red zone with the men from Salisbury Street Foundation. We have been looking after the insects and increasing habitat, looking after the boulder copper butterfly garden. And we also ran some sessions doing printmaking, which were very popular from the gardens. We had 50 people coming to that session, and we also ran one at the Climate Action Campus. And with our renewable energy, we were accepted into a program that was run through Orion and the Community Activator Program, and we're making a energy efficient model house with the University of Canterbury Science, Computer Engineering and Software Engineering Department. So this is the boulder copper site, boulder copper butterfly site, which has been really run down, and we have just, I think this sign that we have has been signed off to go up in that area to inform people about the area. So just really wanted to come and say thank you for the funding, and it's been really great working in the area, and we really want to keep going, and hopefully we can support the septic report. Yeah. So just any support with also the lease and other ideas that we have within the domain.
Cool. I'll give you one question. If anybody has any questions.
Great job. It sounds awesome. Doing this cool stuff. What's the house that you're saying, the model house it's a really interesting project. Did you link in all with that electrified project? I know they did a tour plan.
So they're all in a sort of similar cohort of people around renewable energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. It'll be really interesting when that comes.
Yeah, so that has had a lot of feedback, and that might end up first at Tauranga.
Yeah.
Tauranga.
Tauranga.
Yeah, Tauranga. And then hopefully we can get it around other libraries, because it's a really interactive piece. So it's also aimed at younger people as well and families.
And will that end up at the park as well, did you say?
Well, initially we were looking at something that we could do within the park, and the brief was quite broad, and Isla, who was our student, she has ended up making a modular house, which would be really hard to leave outside. So it's more of an indoor,
So maybe the library,
yeah,
if we can do that.
Right. Well, thank you very much. Good to see you again.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you.
Appreciate all your work that you do.
Yeah, so I'm sure everyone will be in contact with leases and.
Be good. Get it sorted. All right. So next, I think, do we have, is Brooklyn here?
It's
Brooklyn, if you'd like to join us at the end of the table. You have up to 5 minutes to tell us what you want to tell us.
How you doing, Brooklyn?
Don't be intimidated.
Yeah, and so it's very easy enough to say that, but we I know that we're pretty ugly, so.
You go for your life. My name is Brooklyn, and at the start of this year, I went on a scout jamboree in Australia. I went with the New Zealand crew of only about 200 of us. We were the only Kiwis there, and at the jamboree, there was a total of 15,000 people.
Wow.
There was lots of fun activities, like abseiling, bow and arrows, and tons of others. We also had lots of outings, like Wet and Wild, Movie World, Sea World, the beach, and even Australia's. We stayed in tents of about 4 people, and we stayed in sites of about 40 people, including the leaders. Thank you very much for your support to get me there.
I've got a question.
Right.
Brooklyn, what was the weather like?
Like halfway through, it started like pouring down with rain half the time. It
What about the first half?
was pretty good. Yeah, really nice.
Right.
Kelly's got a question, and then Jackie, and then we'll be probably out of time.
Brooklyn, how old are you? 14. 14. What do you feel like you learned from going to this camp? Like lots of skills to make like new friends, I think. And then like I learned how to abseil and stuff like that.
Cool.
Awesome. Right, Jackie.
Okay, so you've been away with the Scouts. So what's your intention with Scouts going forward now?
I'm thinking of going to the next level, like adventurous.
Yes. And what was your favourite thing that you did when you were away on that jamboree?
I really liked like Movie World. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I think we enjoyed it. Thanks very much.
Right, thank you, Brooklyn. Appreciate it.
When I was there.
Right. And so the next one we have John Williams on behalf of Rafferty Golf.
How are we all this evening? My name's John, as you just heard, I'm president of Rafferty Golf Club, and I was here at the presentation of the CPTD report on crime prevention in Rafferty Domain. Rafferty Golf Club is more than half of the domain, and we weren't included in the report. So I thought I'd just come along tonight to tell you what we have to deal with at Rafferty Domain. As early as this morning at 4:04 a.m, I know this because I got the phone call, we got broken into and one of our electric bikes was stolen with a set of golf clubs on the back. And they had no battery in it, so they had to push it all the way across the golf course. And they threw the clubs in the bushes behind number 14 green, which is over by Keys Road. And then I believe that they pushed it out through Grantley Street. Now, that bike is no good to them because it has no battery, and the battery cost is probably worth more than the bike. Our big problem at Rafferty Golf Club is vandalism, okay? There are so many entry points into Rafferty Golf Club. So we have cars that break through over by the basketball court and over on Marine Parade, and they do donuts in the middle of the fairways. They also drive round and round on our putting greens. 2 important parts of a golf course is the tee block and, of course, the putting green. Rafferty Golf Club is about 75 acres. So most of the time they choose to drive around the putting greens. They can do it on the fairways, they're easy to fix, but the putting greens take a lot longer to heal. We also have so many entry points into Rafferty Golf Club. We have Marine Parade, Thompson Park, 2 entryways in Bowhill Road, Shore Ave, of course, from both ends, Grantley Street, all the way down Keys Road. There's so many access points. Most of the vandalism has to be done by locals because we follow the tracks around and they are electric bikes, normal push bikes, where kids have gone onto the putting greens and done donuts as well, which takes a lot to fix. We have to do it ourselves, of course. The other day, as close as last weekend, as you know, you have a flag on the hole. There was a lady who had the handle of her dog and the pole, and she was chasing it around the green. One of our members saw it and went up, "What are you doing?" You know, "Oh, you know you're on the putting green?" "Oh." There are signs everywhere warning people that they are on a golf course and to beware of golf balls. We spent around $800 putting signs everywhere. A fair portion of them have been stolen and or tagged, so you can't read them. In 2013, we were given a mandate by the City Council to maintain and run the golf course ourselves. And over the last 11 years, we have run with volunteers predominantly in our shop for the first 5 years, in our bar consistently all the time. And we have 3 greenkeepers who get hardly any money and do a pile of work. They are semi-retired. So it's quite disappointing when we arrive on a Sunday and things have been trashed. Lime scooters in the bushes, the bikes around the putting greens and things like that are predominantly by local children who ride their bikes there, which is disappointing as well. Over the last 11 years, when the council let us care for and maintain the golf course, we had nothing. We employed a contractor for the first 3 years. He cost us $100,000 a year. And since that time, through volunteers, hard work, we have completed before Christmas and paying for a full complement of machinery. We have 15 golf carts that we hire, that we own, and we have approximately accumulated over the last 11 years around about $500,000 worth of equipment that we have worked hard for and paid for by ourselves. So when we come in on any day of the week and somebody's busted in, the worst tool that was ever invented was a battery-operated angle grinder. They're so easy to get in lots of places.
John, I think, so we've come to the end of the 5 minutes.
Okay.
And so what I want to say is that this seems like a much longer than a 5-minute conversation.
Yeah, that's
I
okay.
appreciate you bringing it to our attention.
Yeah.
What I would like to make sure happens is that we get the relevant staff and your local elected representatives together with you to try and figure out how we can best, we being council, wider council, best.
Yeah, no, that would be great. Celeste came out on Friday. I took her for a spin around the course in a golf cart, which
Not on a lime scooter. Not on a lime scooter.
No. Just to show her a few things, a couple of problems that we have going on with boundary fences and things like that, that are part of us and part of the city council that need repairs. So yeah, why I came today was because we missed out on part of the CPTD report. And because we are more than half of Rafferty Domain, I thought that we should have been involved in that. We were invited to the original meeting at the community gardens, and then nothing happened after that. So I've just come today to let you know what we're up to at Rafferty Golf Club.
Really appreciate you coming, and we'll start to get back to you.
Excellent.
All right.
John.
Thank you so much for your time.
And as part of that follow-up, we also do, because we've got the urban forest plan, all of those trees are on the boundaries, so just making sure that that's part of the whole.
Thank you guys.
Thank you, John. And next, so we have our final public forum. We have John Hayden. You're welcome to take a seat. Before, I think this may be helpful. I'll tell you where we're at with your Dyers Road. in terms of the information we have. And then you might, then you might have some questions or some comments, and then we might be able to you might have some more information. So I'll tell you what we've learned. So we're board, because number of board members have raised this continuously around the rubbish on Dyers Road. And it's a source of ongoing frustration for us. So we're waiting for a response from EcoDrop and the waste team if they can do anything about it. NZTA say they have no budget to increase frequency and no budget to remove the fence. Now, the reason why they have no budget to increase the frequency is the government says they can't spend any more on rubbish removal because that money is being directed towards other things. And thirdly, the wastewater treatment plant team are going to start cleaning up, or they have started cleaning up their land. So on the council side of the fence, there is, pardon?
Of the big fence.
Of the big fence, yeah, the council one is the tall fence, the NZTA is the little fence. So with that in mind, over to you, your 5 minutes.
Oh, well, that's what I'm after. I'm just trying to find somebody who's responsible for, that someone can speak to about the actual problem, because it's disgusting.
Yes.
And everyone comes into Brighton, goes out of Brighton. I'm getting comments from sister-in-law from Australia, my own sister that comes from Auckland, said she hadn't seen rubbish like that in Auckland. But that's what all I am concerned about. And the wiring, there's rubbish. There was a car just under a year ago that was burnt there, still there. The wires hanging out of the old fence, still hanging out. People, kids on push bike, who knows, into it. Should be a health and safety issue on that alone. So that's what I'm here for, to try and get somebody, we can get ownership for that problem that we can speak to.
And with certain trying, because the question is around who pays, and we can try and, so as a community board, we can try and say council needs to do something, and they'll say no, NZTA's responsibility. But NZTA are saying, well, we don't have any funding, so we can't do it. So I guess that tells us what we might need to do to try and get something done. So are you happy to take questions from members?
No, yes.
Yep. Okay, so there's Joe, and then Tim, and then Yanni just beat you, Celeste, I think. And then Celeste, we might be out of time by then, but.
Yeah, so you know that we've been right onto this all the time.
Yeah.
For years, trying to actually sort it out. But I was just going to make a comment for that. The cars that have damaged the fences, there should be some sort of way that we can claim insurance, or the NZTA can claim insurance to actually pay for those fences to be repaired.
You would hope so, yes.
Yes, that's what I'm trying to get at. The ownership of it, speak to the person that makes these decisions and put that front, because you can't leave it like that.
Well, we agree with you.
Yeah, no, it looks terrible. And those fences have been sitting there damaged for years and years.
Yeah.
You know, let alone the rubbish.
Yes.
And last time we had a big community cleanup, and we actually got so much from there. It was incredible. And it took a big effort to just get it.
Yeah, well,
and if it was picked up every second day or weekly at least, it wouldn't accumulate.
That's right. Just only need somebody once a week to go along for an hour, if that, and just pick it up after a strong wind.
We've got a couple more minutes. Tim?
Yeah, I think the visual part, one thing, that whatever gets into the water ends up in the sea. That's even worse.
Yes, no, I totally understand. Got no issue with that at all.
The question I have is for either of you, is Hiwaka Kotapu, are they happy for the fence to go, that small one?
The information.
They have responded by email to say that they have no budget to remove the fence, but if council can magic the budget, they're happy for us to do so on their behalf.
Well, I've got a battery grinder.
I think that might come under a health and safety
Yeah,
concern on a state
let's
highway.
not let's think about the multiple ways we might be able to achieve this. All right, that's helpful. Yanni, we've got a minute and a half. Now you're on mute.
Oh, sorry. Thanks, Mr. Hayden, for coming in. I know when we talked on the phone, you also had some other suggestions of maybe changing the type of fence to come to something a bit better to actually stop the rubbish from getting through. Just wondered if you could elaborate maybe on your thoughts on solutions. And I know also Joe touched on the community cleanup, which is something you also raised with me.
Well,
Thank you.
it's even the possibilities of a cycleway next to the fence, which one, you've got two fences. You've got the new fence, good, does what it's supposed to do, no issue. But when you've got that other fence by the LTSA, they're actually causing a problem by getting there. You can't get through. If you go over the thing, you're going to get in trouble, aren't you? So it's yin and yang. But I want to speak, well, from my point of view, I'd like to speak to somebody who's right in charge. This is our issue.
It does seem like
Nobody will take up, because I've rung the council on numerous occasions, get a number, we'll email you back, I get nothing.
So I've been assured that the manager at NZTA who is in charge of this will get a link to this conversation. So we are running, we're pretty much out of time.
So just one other question, is it better for me to approach an MP? Have they got any say in Parliament to that person who runs or in their board?
Yeah, so that's in Christchurch East. So your local MP is Reuben Davidson, who's opposite.
That's right.
In there. So from that angle too, we can.
I've rung them, but I sort of got shuffled slightly across back to the council again. It's a council issue.
Yeah, so
that's what keeps happening to me.
So we will we'll continue to push. I think we've actually found ourselves something that we can do, which is get funding to remove that fence.
Yeah.
So I don't think anybody around the table will disagree.
But as I say, yes, as a cycleway across there keeps the person safe. Or just as a side issue to that, actually, I don't know if the council altitude with the 70 miles an hour speed limit, got no issue across the actual causeway, but I've come into contact with quite a few accidents, people coming out of the industrial area at 70 k's, where you go to a street or down Marston's Road and you go, but here's an industrial area with trucks pulling out, you got 70 k. And I had a terrible incident last week, I've had two. A motorcyclist in the rain drove underneath a truck and I had to get him off the road and he had basically his face missing. Oh, it was disgusting. And I've complained about the 70, I don't know if it's a council issue.
That's NZTA.
Yeah.
We can try it.
Yeah.
We've raised it with them before as well, and we can continue to do so.
We're out of time.
Yes.
Sorry. But thank you for coming in, and we will get back to you if we make any progress.
Good on you.
All right. Thank you, everybody.
Do you think we could actually sell the metal wire?
Yeah.
And get funding from that to later would scrap metal.
Well, yeah, you could send it to NX Metals and they could crush it in the middle of the night.
We'll get a bit of money for that. Tell everyone.
That's part of the follow-up. Can we also just note the safety concerns, because we have in board and it's.
So the follow-up will be me contacting New Zealand Transport Agency again.
Yeah.
This is not a decision-making forum and no, doesn't normally go part of the public forum thing. So we have got a record of the meeting, and that will all be shared with NZTA and obviously the relevant staff that I have been liaising with. I have met with a representative from NZTA on this topic before. Everyone's aware of the situation.
So
that's great.
Just hold on, just one at a time, please. Cindy was in the middle of talking. So the board has raised this repeatedly. Our local staff have done the utmost to try and get progress on it. But now we have, hold on a sec, now we have the opportunity to try and push for something which we don't know the price of yet. And there are some other things that are related, which are also noted down.
That's great, So just make sure I understood that, thank you.
Can we, it is maybe not part of this, but as a board, potentially write to the chief executive of NZTA expressing our concern? I understand that we've tried staff to staff, obviously that's not really working. We're making progress, but it seems like these staff's quite restricted as well.
My understanding is, and this isn't a satisfactory answer, it's just that if the government allocates X amount of money and they're not allowed to spend more than that amount of money, so I'm reliably informed that there is no more money for doing this kind of thing from NZTA. And so
the minister?
They don't. Well, the minister might.
Could we write to the minister as well?
We can't. We could, yes. We can write to the minister. I mean, I don't think any of you will mind if I write on behalf of the board without a resolution to the minister. Because yeah,
And there might not be planning to remove the fence, but if say to deliver a cycleway along there, as John highlighted, it might actually fix a few
but
problems.
yeah,
And I think they might have planning to watch. But you never know.
the only money
That's
they
the
have
question.
for cycleways is like painted cycleways. All right, so yes, fixed issue, we're all in agreement, we'll see what we can do. Now, move on, we don't have any deputations, we don't have any presentations or petitions. Is Andrew Crossland here from Wastewater Treatment Plant? Andrew, would you like to come and give us our briefing?
Sure, I've got a USB with some pictures on it, how do we play that?
There may be some delay. So just a reminder to everybody that this is about operational issues and not about any kind of insurance and not about the new wastewater treatment or the replacement wastewater treatment plant.
Yeah, so I don't work for the pre-waters or for the waterways people. I'm working in the parks biodiversity team. I'm the wildlife expert. Most of you probably know who I am or have seen me before. I've been asked to come here by Adam Twose, the manager of the oxidation ponds, to just answer questions on wildlife. He asked me to give a quick little synopsis of sort of the wildlife values and a bit of a background, and then open up for questions that I understand you've had over recent meetings.
Brilliant.
So hopefully we can get that. It's the one that says community board presentation on the USB.
Just give me one moment.
So just while she's doing that, I've been monitoring the bird life in the estuary for over 40 years, and been sort of consultant or staff to the council for about 30 or so years. So I've got a pretty good knowledge of the birds of the estuary and the ponds and wider, Christchurch, Banks Peninsula, Canterbury as well. So maybe to put things into context for you in terms of where probably fits in with a wider picture, and also in terms of things that might have happened in the last 12 months relative to the last 40 years, because things go up and down, some legitimacy report, things yin and yang. So if we can get those pictures on, it'll be easier to talk to those. If you've got any early questions, just ask them while we're waiting.
100,000 birds here?
So can we have a speaking order, residents? Yep. Tim?
There we go. I've got, that's the slide.
Okay, start.
So we're ready to go once someone wants to push a button, or? Oh, great. How does it work?
So just a reminder, the rules haven't changed. People could raise their hands and we'll make sure everybody gets a fair go.
Are you?
Okay, so if you can all look at the pictures rather than me, or up to you, really. So I know this is counterintuitive because Christchurch sits in a pretty modified landscape, but we have the highest avian biodiversity of any part of New Zealand. More than 260 bird species have been recorded in the Christchurch and Central Canterbury area. And we have a whole bunch of threatened and at-risk species that occur here. The main reason for that is because how we're located on the east coast of the South Island. The birds that come from the southern part of New Zealand come to Christchurch, and those from the northern come to Christchurch. So the range of so many species overlap, whereas in Auckland or Dunedin, you only get the northern and the southern birds. Okay, so Christchurch is a major migration node for birds that are breeding in the South Island, which is most of New Zealand's woodland bird life. They migrate to the North Island or to the Nelson area, and they come through here. So we have thousands of birds, and over that 100,000 questions. So every few years we do a census of the total numbers of wetland birds in the sort of greater Christchurch area, which includes coastal Waimak and coastal Selwyn, and we consistently get over 100,000 birds at peak times, which really puts us in there in the whole East Asian, Australasian flyway with big numbers. We have 4 coastal wetlands in our district which are of international importance, but only the Avon Heathcote has been designated as a international network flyway site. And the oxidation ponds and the estuary combined with the Linwood paddocks and with the salt marshes on the lower rivers support up to 30,000 birds at peak times. So it's super important, top 10 New Zealand and internationally really important. So on the estuary area, we have up to 7,000 shorebirds, which are waders and terns. This is some of the godwits coming into Charlesworth Reserve. And on the oxidation ponds themselves, which is the focus of this, we talk, up to 15,000 waterfowl, and most of those are native. So you'll know about the Canada geese, which aren't native, and they are the only real non-native bird we have. Mallard, the normal ducks that you know, they're quite low numbers. It's essentially native ducks that are there. And these include more than 20% of the entire global population of New Zealand scaup. It's the single most important breeding population on the planet. Big numbers or internationally important numbers of Australasian shoveler and also of grey teal. Those are the three native ducks that are 80% of the bird population there. And wildlife management in Christchurch is a bit different than other parts of the country where they're trying to bring in token species to kind of naturalise the environment. So if we're in Hamilton or Palmerston North, for example, it's about bringing tuis into town. Well, here we have these huge waterbird populations that are migrating through. So the wildlife management job here is to facilitate that migration through the city without people getting in the way and without birds getting in the way of people. And that can be quite difficult because we have, 500,000 people in Greater Christchurch, including the outer districts, which is, 5 times more than the number of birds. So for every bird, there's 5 people. We manage that through a whole bunch of means, but a lot of those mechanisms go back to our biodiversity strategy. And some of the key things we have in terms of needing to focus for wildlife management are probably also counterintuitive. The number one problem we have at the moment is avian disease and toxic conditions. And this is everything from outbreaks of avian botulism, from fuel and spills in the river, and the estuary or in the ocean, as well as presently the imminent threat of bird flu, which could come through and decimate bird populations. So we have an outbreak of avian botulism currently, which is very unusual because it doesn't usually occur in winter. Usually the cold frosts stop it. But over 150 swans have died in the last month or so, and lots of other birds. So we don't quite know why, and there's a response in place at the moment. The second biggest problem we have is disturbance, and with one bird to every 5 people, you can understand that there's people and dogs everywhere causing disturbance, and this is the mechanism that scares away or displaces most of the key species of conservation importance. If we allowed lots of disturbance, we'd have heaps of Canada geese running towards you wanting bread and some ducks, but all the other wildlife would be gone. So we have to manage that. And then after that, a problem is predation, okay? Mainly from birds, and then secondary from mammals preying upon native birds. This is a Caspian tern, a threatened species that's been killed by a predator at Charleswood wetland. We also have the midges. Now, I understand that's the main reason why Adam would like me to come and talk to you. Midges are wonderful beyond belief. Midges are the krill of the entire ecosystem. It's the midges that the birds are feeding on. There are no fish in the oxidation ponds. It's all midges. They are a super important food source for our wildlife. I know they're a pain in the ass. And if you have a look at my council photo when you call me up on the phone, you'll see I'm sitting there with some cotton buds in my ears and a million midges. Because places like Lake Ellesmere have midges like you wouldn't believe compared to the problems here. But they are the source of almost all the food for many of the birds in the oxidation ponds. And when things happen, for example, mechanisms to control midges, then the bird numbers crash with quite dire consequences for the bird life. A key way to mitigate midges is by using birds as biocontrol. So almost finished. These 2 guys are black-billed gull in the front and the red-billed gull in the back, the native gulls, and they're at-risk species. You'll notice every dusk, thousands of these birds flying across the city to the oxidation ponds, particularly ponds 1 and 2, the 2 nearest the works. And those birds are spending the entire night feeding on midges. And then we have multiple other species, but the key one I understand is the swallow that you're interested in. The swallows are here to feed on the midges.
Do they swallow them whole?
I assume they do. I've seen this swallowed a few whole in my time, and let me tell you, it's not very nice. But so currently at the moment, the oxidation ponds, people are putting in structures, where they have put in structures to try to utilise those as swallow roosting habitat, rather than them going on power lines and under people's properties. And in fact, this one here was on the oxidation ponds. That was built for midge control. They built the structure some years ago, and they were going to put a netting over it and douse it with chemical to kill midges, ironically. And the swallows utilised it as a roosting site. A storm came and destroyed it, but we knew that it would work because with these new structures that copy this thing here with thousands of swallows. And in fact, this is a photo I took a few months ago in Sumatra, Indonesia, where everywhere in the world, I guess outside of this country, you have massive migrations of swallows and martins, which are related. And many, many cities at night are covered in thousands upon thousands of swallows. It's just part of the landscape. I'll leave it for you to ask me questions now relating to that, but there are a few things about if you want to remove swallows, what the constraints would be.
So I for one would not want to remove swallows, and I don't understand why people would, but got Alex and then Celeste.
Cool, go for it.
Sweet. I think we all love birds, and I think I didn't lose the next election. But I had a question about when you've got the midges sort of towards in residential areas, sort of a little bit further away from the wastewater ponds.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's down Oramav, beachside, Sundown Marine Parade, where obviously there are birds there. And what can we do? Obviously, there's a midge mitigation plan coming that will help keep midges where they need to be.
Yeah.
But and I know you said birds, but is there anything further we can do to help increase bird life in those areas where we don't want the midges as well?
I think that if I'm not mistaken, that was quite a unusual eruption of midges to that location. I know the midges occur annually around Araneri, but it's pretty unusual for big masses to go there. They don't live very long, so they would have died. I assume, I'd never heard when it stopped, but I assume it didn't last too long. And talking to the ponds guys, it seems that there were wind conditions and things that kind of took them there unusually. Normally they're kind of domiciled within the oxidation ponds, and what they're working toward is planting up all those native trees around the ponds to blacken the sky. It's like the moths that you see at your back door. The midges are going to with the light. So the key thing is to use that as a way to stop midges being attracted away. They used to use a lot of chemical to the point, this is back in the 80s and 90s, where the guys working the ponds were getting illness from chemicals. They were dousing it, and of course that kills other insects as well, like bees and everything else. So the combination of providing, so now they're trying to encourage more birds, because there are thousands of birds that midges, but they want to encourage more. And also to complete that program, they may need funding for that. Quite a few of those trees died because they were planted in summer. Some of them you can't grow trees in sand dunes in January, right? But once that's completed, that should keep the midges in there. The other thing is that I know this is hard. It's hard to say. People might not be too receptive to it, but they're not mosquitoes with malaria. They're a pain in the ass, absolutely, but they aren't going to kill you, they're not going to hurt you, and they're not going to last that long. And maybe if we can put out some general messages to the community that midges are super important and that these eruptions are really annoying, we understand that, but they won't last that long and you won't get diseases and things from it like you do with midges in most other parts of the world, or mosquitoes, then maybe we can lift the tolerance a wee bit. We have a bit of an understanding. If the midges go, we're in trouble. And if they do things in the ponds that drop the midges, they're quite dire. It's using chemicals or it's pumping poo into the ponds. The first kills everything. The birds don't have any habitat. The second possibly could trigger disease outbreaks or toxic levels in the ponds or botulism, and that can then kill birds. So it's not a very good lever to use to do that. But yeah, sure. I've been 40 years monitoring these birds, and it's been quite rare. There's been public outcry to the level that there was recently with those midges.
I really appreciate that, and it was a really good response. And I think we all like to see more birds. It sounds like two birds with one stone. Oh, sorry. What do we say? There's a new version of two birds with one stone. We don't say that anymore. And stop talking.
Before we go to this, I mean, it just underlines to me again how important it is that we don't allow a track to go through through the pond, the 360-degree trail. Like, it would just be such a terrible impact on the bird life.
Yeah, the thing is that we've built a city on a wetland. We removed most of the habitat and the wildlife got to live on the edges and no one went to. But now what we're doing is going into those edges and putting stuff there. And so many of those species won't be able to tolerate the level of disturbance. So I just want to understand that going forward, that's a different topic, I guess.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions?
One, Celeste and then Joe.
Thank you, that's very good and good feedback as well. I think, you know, it's one of those things where you learn a lot through the process, so it's good to hear from you. With the actual plan that there's been developed, you've fed into that plan here around, you mentioned that there is.
Yeah.
So you're comfortable with the. Approach that.
Yeah, I think that it's to move from massive amounts of chemicals that kill everything to trying to do landscape and understand that 26 hectares of native bush, which was the plan, is what not only would that benefit community bioscopic images going into the neighbourhood, but it's going to be a freaking awesome bit of native habitat for other wildlife, for people to have pathways through and stuff. It's going to be a pretty good outcome. I just hope they're able to continue it because it does require a lot of resource, given the ground's quite hard to grow into.
And it just might be follow up for stuff, is that's, would you put some more information around some of the stuff that you've touched on today on the stuff around the wastewater treatment plant, just the area?
Sure.
Because we've got a lot of technical information there, but it's quite sort of, yeah, it doesn't touch on some of the stuff you've mentioned that I'm aware of. I think we just need to keep updating that with this type of information.
Yeah. Cool.
So that's something that we can ask to be added in.
Yeah, if they need, or if you or others need any information on the ponds, then I'm happy to provide that. I have a lot of information on the ponds.
Yeah, it's just around the ecological stuff. We tend to focus on the other parts of it, which is important, but it's the bigger picture stuff as well.
Funnily enough, if you look at climate change and you look at species conservation globally, it's the oxidation ponds in the estuary that are by far the most important contributor that Christchurch has to anything. You can convert all of the vehicle fleet to biodiesel and you can recycle as much rubbish as you want, but at the end of the day, when a quarter of the world population of a species lives in Christchurch and that goes extinct or something, then the lights of the world are going to flicker and go out for a moment, right? So keeping in context a proportion of the values that we contribute to the world as being partly in the sewage ponds and the estuary is really important to be aware of. Yeah.
All right.
No more questions?
I think final question from Joe.
Yep, I know that Canadian guest paddocky places and stuff.
Yeah.
Do you have any issue with those around the ponds?
Well, yeah. When the Canada geese are on council land, then they're not on private land where they can cause a lot of damage, to commercial pasture where they poo and so forth. So in some ways, our sites are sacrificial sites for Canada geese, keep them away from it elsewhere. The problem we have is with the airport and that the geese are flying, many of their geese are breeding inland, and they migrate down through the Waitai River to estuary, Travis Land, and Auckland and so forth. So the geese are of a pain. That said, people appreciate large flocks of geese on a foggy morning, driving into work from Sumner. And also they do provide, they're a useful management tool in terms of maintaining a certain short sward of grass height in places like Travis and the estuary paddocks where other birds can then feed because it's really low grass. But generally we do control the geese, and the main tool we have is to do a mock cull at the estuary because the birds can't fly at a certain time of the year. We can only really get mostly first and second year mature birds because most adults are away breeding in the high country. So we do use the estuary to control them. But generally they aren't a problem on the estuary itself. But they are a problem when they go into town. And they are a problem when they go onto farmland and render pasture unavailable for grazing.
So with the number of them, does that impact other species?
No.
Okay.
No. So the numbers aren't that high. Like the numbers are no higher than what they were in the mid-80s. I've been counting. I can give you data from 84 until now, and they go up and down. We can make substantial reductions in their numbers. By doing these mock culls, because when we kill all the 1 and 2 year olds, then in a few years' time there's no 5 and 6 year olds.
But we
Right.
developed so much more land, right? Is that why they're perceived as more of a problem than in the eighties?
No, I think formerly they only came onto the estuary, and then hunting occurred on the estuary as a means of control because they used to be managed by Fish and Game. DOCA subsequently take them away from Fish and Game. When they were controlled by Fish and Game, their first way of control was hunting. And hunting disperses geese because geese are very clever. So the geese discovered Travis wetland. They discovered the Lower Avon River. People fed them. The earthquakes occurred. Grassland occurred along the Avon River in the red zone, and Canada geese moved upstream. Then they began to breed, and we got a resident population that's tame. You used to be able to go into Travis wetland, be 500 geese, you clap your hands, they'd take off, they wouldn't come back for a week, and now they'll come running to you for, well, not really, but food. So we failed to manage the human population by saying, if you feed a goose, you go to jail for a week and you're paying 10 grand fine. We don't do that, do we? We just take photos of them. So people feed geese have become conditioned to people in town, and we have an issue where it's hard for us to manage them in town. On the estuary and Brooklands Lagoon and Travis Wetland, and also at places like Styx Mill Reserve and Lake Ellesmere, Lake Forsyth, we can control geese, using lethal means of control. But then again, it isn't really necessarily the council's job to control geese. It may be other agencies. ECAN are responsible for pests, but they haven't designated geese as pests.
I think I'll is it is that going to
Interesting anecdote.
Is it? So now that I'm like, okay, well, anecdote. You're telling me what you're doing.
I will tell you what I'm doing. I've had a lot of complaints around all my neighbours. I live next to a substantial, it's called Coral Waitai Drainage Reserve, which has been infested with Canada geese. And I bought a $50 speedboat, take it out there, and within a couple of minutes, they'll all fly off. The things are really, really, really effective. The neighbours think I'm a hero. But they have a very low tolerance for it's pathetic speedboat, it really is. But I can only do it when the swans and the native ducks are either not there or whatever. But it's been really effective in moving them on.
I think the city needs a goose chaser.
Pretty much.
Like someone who actually does things like that and just keeps them on their toes and takes controls the nesting and all that.
That's another take-home quote from you. Yeah, whereas midges are wonderful and the city needs a goose chaser.
Yes.
Sometimes if you look at the world and don't put sunglasses on, you can actually see what's really happening rather than what people say is happening. If you know what I mean. Like when you monitor goose numbers, the arrival of the migration and then the departure is exactly the same year by year. And then you see the patterns rather than just thinking, oh shit, I can remember there weren't any geese here, but that was February 1999 and now it's July 2025. It doesn't really compare.
Right, on that note, thank you very much. It was really interesting and helpful.
So thanks to Adam for sending it.
So can someone move that we receive the report presentation? Alex, seconded by Greg. All those in favour say aye. Against, carried. All right, we'll just have a quick break and we'll so 1 minute. So we've had the briefing, so now we've got the Clear Park lease to Royal New Zealand Blanket Trust, moved by Jackie and seconded by Greg. Noting that's Councillor Donovan, isn't here. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Again,
Can I ask
carried.
a question?
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you. Well, I will, yes, we can have a question. I will, we've already passed it, but,
The only thing I wanted to know, I've been asked by a resident, was, is there going to be a path from the school to the park? From the- Oh, sorry, the Plunkett.
Plunkett.
Sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, don't worry.
okay.
Yeah.
So thank you, and sorry to keep you so
The next
long.
person can answer.
All right, so that's Clear Park. I was surprised because I thought that was pretty comprehensive. So now the Clear Park disc golf course, Caitlin.
Same again.
And so we have a mover. Do we have a seconder? A seconded by Alex. Do we have any questions?
Same question for me.
Yeah.
Not directly for the disc golf, however, I am aware that the playground is also being worked on at the moment, so we can pass that on to them.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, so we have Jackie's moved and Alex, do you have a question? No, okay. Alex, any debate? No, okay. Motion will now be put. All those in favour say aye. Again, carried.
Thank you.
Next is Robbie, with Horseshoe Lake Reserve. Initially, I initially had some, on the face of it, some reservations, but then I read the report and removal of it, what? And I thought that residents might be a bit worried about it, but it looks good.
There may be a question though.
Do we have any questions? Greg?
The maintenance of $10,000 there, is that annual or is that over the life of those trees?
That is a total guess. That's an absolute guess, matey. I couldn't tell you. We have to put the stuff in, but that's assuming we send some tree crews in there to do some pruning work. I guess the point I'm trying to raise here is we could spend heaps more than 10 grand maintaining pest plant species. So, $10,000 is probably a conservative guess when it comes to maintaining trees. And I think the point is that a lot of those orders that we're proposing to remove that are pest plants are already tipping over anyway. So does that kind of give you an idea? Yeah.
That's cool. And also with there's some pretty large trees there that aren't in this program at the moment.
Correct, yeah.
Is there the opportunity to plant now with the replacement species for these trees, when we're replacing these trees, to be able to start to grow the canopy, so when those other trees come down, there'll be a more viable canopy already started at that point, rather than a smaller canopy replacing what's there?
Yeah, sort of. It's it's difficult when you've got really large trees to plant underneath and have that canopy to build up mature trees and have them survive, because when the crews come in, they make a bit of a mess, do a bit of damage. So the tall trees along there, there's a big stand of black poplars, if you're familiar with that area. We're not proposing to remove those at this stage. It's just the trees we're removing are, to be fair, pretty scrappy looking.
The shags like them, though.
Not those ones, not those ones, no. So correct, we need to retain some trees for habitat as well. To go back to your question, yeah, that's kind of what we're trying to do. We're trying to work in, revegetate some areas, but it's ideal to sort of remove anything that's going to do damage to the planted areas later, I suppose. Yeah.
Yeah, that was my thought, was rather than just replacing with like for like, not like for like, but something in those sort of same sizes. Some of them are really large, but putting something in to start to grow that next canopy cover for when the other ones have to come down.
Yeah, correct. Yeah.
Right, Kelly?
Obviously, you put out some consultation. And when it comes time to actually do the work, could you put something out to the board just so that we can
bring our trailers and chainsaws?
Yeah, just so that we can communicate with those people that will be driving past and thinking, where are all our beautiful trees going? And they're not beautiful trees.
Yeah, we'll just do like a start works update through to Cindy or something like that, as we always do. Yeah, no worries.
Any further questions? No further questions? Before we move this, or someone moves it, I just want to say, like, we just get really good feedback from the ranger team, like people say, you know, it's really good to have these rangers around and
Oh, good.
like, you know, solving problems and things like that. Like, it's really good.
Oh, that's great. Thanks, Paul. It's good to hear.
All right. Well, would someone like to move this?
I will.
Moved by Tim and seconded by Celeste. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. All right. Thank you.
Adoption one, you took.
And yeah, so that's done. So thank you very much.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
All right. And now we move on to the area report. As always, heaps in there. I think one thing that stood out to me is just how cool it is that that the work that's been done around our waterways to protect and to appreciate the longfin eel. You know, it's a really awesome species, and my wife written a really cool song about them. So, any questions of Chris?
Maybe it's in the area report, maybe something to pass on to the relevant staff. I'm just in light of, I haven't been down to the site, so I don't know how bad it is or what the building's like, but the church that was lit on fire is quite a great space. It's actually the youth, they do a youth group there that's in our report. They have quite a lot of local people go down and play basketball and do stuff like that. So I want to make sure that they're still able to do that in light of that, or if there's a space available.
Because we don't have any of our community development staff here, so I guess we'll just have to note that down.
Yeah,
but good question.
Sure we can help those that are working hard to keep our young people activated and energetic.
Yeah, I know. I mean, and there was a particular reason they wanted that site because they're of a lack of things to do. So, any other questions of Chris? Yanni's got his hand up. Yanni?
Thank you. Yeah,
Can't
just
hear you, sorry,
on
just
page
hold on.
62, 4.5. Do we have any
No, I
date?
still can't hear you, sorry.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
Hold on.
We just think seems to be
there appears to be a glitch in the system.
Okay, no worries.
Do you have any semaphore flags?
Sign language.
So sorry, you'll have to we just have a technology problem, Yanni, so you have to email the question through to staff. Apologies. Well, if there's no further questions, moved by Kelly, seconded by Jackie. Any discussion? No. Well, motion will now be put. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. So now we move on to te whakawhiti whakaaro o te kahui amorangi, which is the Members Information Exchange.
Well done.
Joe.
Just a couple of things I'll mention. I contacted, I suppose it's the person in charge of tickets. Is that Christine? We put the reports in, customer services for reports. And it was about the bouncing back tickets and also regarding graffiti reports. I've had a resident inquire about how do they know, or a person making a report, know what the asset is and who it belongs to. So they were asking if there was some way that Snapseed Soul could actually have the image or something of an asset for a person to actually ID what they're actually reporting. But what council are going to do is they're going to, or the graffiti team are working on it, is actually put a great big list of assets and everything with photos and who they belong to on the council website.
That would be good.
Yeah, because people are going, okay, what's an Orion cabinet or what's an Able?
Or what's
you
a
don't
Toby
know.
box? Yeah.
So that we're just trying to resolve that.
Well, that's really good.
Yeah, hopefully. Hopefully it's good. And the other thing was that we went to, or the safety partnership had a meeting the other day, and we were discussing the homeless situation in Bexley with all the people camping here. And they're just trying to get some resolution and work between staff and the mission and everything to actually try and resolve that issue. Because there's people that have been complaining about it, but others that are quite happy with it. And the biggest thing is the lack of resources for those people and camping there with no amenities.
It's amazing how getting rid of emergency housing doesn't get rid of emergency housing need.
Exactly. But, we just can't leave them there with nothing.
No.
So that's one thing that we've been looking through with the group.
Yeah. Right. Thanks, Joe.
I'll let
Alex and then
next,
Celeste.
just because I think it's about that.
It is.
So I can let it up swap.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, I was just really picking up on Joe's point that I think it'd be good to get sort of maybe a bit more visibility of what the plan is across council, focusing on this, because from what I've heard back is that we don't really have a plan. So the community safety partnership has written to council and said, what's the plan? The response back is there is no plan, because we don't actually have anyone dealing with homelessness in terms of like a strategic focus. So while we have a housing strategy that doesn't actually address sometimes the areas of need.
It's also not funded. Yeah.
Exactly. So I think it would be something that would be good to pick up and keep going back and saying we actually, for instance, this is a good example when we're moving people on, where do they go? Well, they probably will just move somewhere else. And is this an appropriate strategy just to move people on? Because I would argue that Bexley is a place where people can camp up if they've got nowhere else to go. And the alternative is they end up in other places that people will also complain, but may cause another problem. So we're just moving things around. So I just would like to know a bit more about what the plan is across the council units. Because it's not just enforcement, it's not just parks.
Yeah.
But they're all trying to do their bit, but there's actually no one overseeing the work.
I always maintain that, it's these kinds of things are always you don't have to, tolerate antisocial behaviour, but the underlying cause of it, which is houselessness, and inequality and poverty, we need to address that, and we've got a role to play.
And we also need a bit more, because I think the feedback I had is that John Slaughter, who leads the safety stuff, it's not actually within his scope to deal with people who are living without anywhere to live. So who is leading that work? Because you can't just keep asking somebody to pick up something when he's got no mandate to do it. So I think we should be advocating to council to look at this more holistically. So we're not just calling parks and saying move them on. And that's what's happening. And they're doing the best they can, but they're not resourced to handle this.
And, I think that it's incumbent on us also to point out that there has been a pulling back from central government of providing access to emergency and social housing, and we're feeling the impact. And now we're being asked as local government. Sure, we've got a part to play, but there is 215 developments across the country have been cut.
Yeah, and I agree. It's a central government lead thing, but we did know last year that we were likely to see an uptick in homelessness, and there was a request to look at this. And now it's just reactive rather than being proactive and going, what can we do within the resources we have? And there should be more.
Yeah,
I think in that space. So I'm just agreeing with you on that.
Yeah,
Sorry.
thank you.
About this as well. I'll let Greg go. So yeah.
Is that something that the WBNS team is probably needing to come together with a whole bunch of agencies rather than just the board going to one direction and bouncing off different people?
Well, I guess, it's slightly different with the team not here today. I guess they would be wanting to contribute to the conversation, but it's not something that we should just park here. I think we need to all try and use the resources available to us to help at least improve the situation.
It's not a short-term thing either.
No. Well, the thing is, do you know what the clearest solution to houselessness is? Houses.
Affordable houses.
Yeah, affordable houses. Well, houses that people can live in. So Alex was.
Is it about this, Kelly?
It is.
Oh yes, Swapsy. Here we go.
I'm just thinking, I wonder if we might look at some stage at having a bit of a briefing from Josh and the team from City Mission who work in this space and
the housing first people.
Sorry?
Do you mean the housing first people particularly, or do you mean the
Well, the information that they come and talk to us about is rough sleeping and what they're doing, how they engage with them, and that might just give us a better understanding of the whole situation and potential solutions that they might see.
Yeah, I think it's worth having it with a particular focus on the east. Yeah, that's something
He's
we,
been to talk to us at the safety group.
yeah.
Yeah.
Was that informative?
I think it makes sense to come to the board as well.
Yeah,
because
it means it's in a
across-
public,
Outside of New
yeah.
Brighton as well.
and it means that
The whole board.
the public
Yeah.
has access to it as
Yeah.
well.
It's good.
Yeah. All right, so we've got, so Alex, so I think this will be the, unless.
No more questions, sorry,
No more,
Alex.
no, you can go.
No, this is just something for councillors to be aware of. I think they already are. I'm just with the annual plan finishing up. I've been out door knocking. Quite a lot of things I hear is sort of a need for minor safety improvements. Obviously, when we've logged them in the past, it's sort of been, well, there have been no crashes and we need to prioritise it by high crash rates. I just think it would be good if we get some information. I mean, I can have a look at one point, but if councillors would like to share now, or at one point, just what's happened with the minor safety improvement budget in light of the most recent annual plan, no change.
The short version is no change, but sadly it is the number one thing I get asked about by far. So it's ironic because we get a lot of pushback about it, but I'm get multiple requests every day, safety improvements. And I always have to say, I'm sorry, it's unlikely because there's no budget. So it is good feedback because I think it's not always visible when you go on Facebook, but it is there's a really strong demand for safety improvements across the whole of the coastal world. I don't know what in Burwood, but definitely outside of the town.
Some places.
Yeah,
Some
I think it's
places.
just really wide streets, people are hanging around a lot, and it's people getting quite concerned. So, yeah.
So, yeah, I just wanted to raise it. It was a really
Sorry.
resounding thing that I hear on the doors.
Well, thank you. And so before I close the meeting,
Yeah, I was gonna scan it.
he has had his hand up the whole time, but it doesn't work.
Can you hear me
The audio
now?
isn't working. We can try one more time.
Yeah.
No, we still can't
can you
hear
hear-
you. Sorry, mate. Well, you have to.
Honestly, I'm not muted him.
He's not muted. He's not muted. Yeah, sorry about
But you can see my control.
We can't see you.
No, shouldn't.
Sorry about that. Just finally, Jack and I did some door knocking, and the one thing that it sounds like well, I've heard that the seals that they're using to connect the water mains to the toby boxes continue to blow on Tilford Street, and the feedback that one person working on it gave to a resident was that those seals aren't up to it. So I'm going to follow that up, but I just thought I'd like to know if any of you have heard about seals repeatedly breaking, connecting from the water mains to the toby boxes.
So in the council part.
Yeah, on the council part, yeah. So if you do, please tell me so that we can follow that up. Anyway,
Can I just quickly?
oh, Cindy? Cindy?
Sorry, I know, Yanni, we struggled to hear you, so I've just read the email you've sent everyone for your elected members information exchange. All bar the last one is a valid exchange of information. We can't do requests for that tree planting thing, so maybe we can take that offline and maybe have a conversation about that tomorrow.
All right, cool. Tau te rangi Māori e, o te rangi e tu I honei, o Papatūānuku I whakatō nei, o te taiao I awhi nei, ki runga I a tātou, tihi hei mauri ora. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Like I need like a reverse one of these.